Mr. Jay Foran. Jay, take it away.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Manufacturing Works, for this opportunity. I appreciate it. The cluster appreciates it, and excited to share with you some perspectives relative to how smart manufacturing can help your business. Here on January 28th, 6 weeks short of a one-year pandemic. Pretty hard to believe. But I know that you and your companies have done a tremendous job over that period of time to persevere, to find the opportunities and to pursue those opportunities. So congratulations to you on that. One of the things that has become fairly apparent through the pandemic is the value of technology adoption, particularly smart manufacturing and additive manufacturing. So hoping to share a little bit about that with you today. And let's now move to a little bit of a description of how Team NEO and the smart manufacturing cluster came to be. So Team NEO every 3 years puts together a strategic priority list and strategies attached to those strategies. And here you will see that there's a variety of different things that Team NEO gets involved in. I don't know how much you know about Team NEO, but it's a regional economic development organization. It's a Jobs Ohio affiliate, and our mission is to help companies grow, to do that in a way that is equitable and inclusive, and want to do it through the 18 counties of Northeast Ohio. But you'll see at the 11 o'clock portion of the diagram here that advanced technology adoption has been a core priority for us over the last 2 cycles of doing these priorities. So basically 6 years. And I'm sure we'll be continuing to do that as we shape a new strategic plan as we head into 2022. Excellent, thank you. So under advanced technology adoption, our role is pretty simple. What we're trying to do is simply facilitate innovation clusters for both smart manufacturing and additive manufacturing. Why? Well, because we did some analysis that looked at the various industries in Northeast Ohio, and then looked at what were the emerging technologies. And in that exercise, it was pretty apparent that smart manufacturing and additive manufacturing were coming on fairly fast, that we had a base of companies here in Northeast Ohio that would be well served by adding these. And these technologies were also very cross-cutting to the variety of industries that we have in Northeast Ohio. And examples on additive manufacturing, clearly every manufacturer, whether you're in automotive or aerospace or even healthcare, can find applications for additive manufacturing. So in our efforts to advance the economy of Northeast Ohio, we decided to kind of focus in on these 2 particular areas. And one of the key roles that we play is from a research standpoint and helping to shape a roadmap, not a technology roadmap, but more instead a commercialization roadmap. Basically intending to identify the opportunity, why we have a reason to believe that we can compete in that particular area. What's the size of the prize? Should we be successful? And what's it going to take? And out of both of those exercises, those roadmaps, it was pretty apparent that a cluster would be valuable to advancing people's understanding, engagement with, and trial of these 2 particular technologies. More about the cluster a little bit later. Let's move here to what is smart manufacturing. Now, I could give you Team NEO's version, Jay Foran's version, but I think it's best for manufacturers to hear from manufacturers. Some of you, I saw the list of folks that are attending, and I saw that, a number of you did participate in an earlier event we had in November of last year. And I'm going to share some 2 to 3 minute vignettes from the presentation that Mike Rogelski, Senior VP and CTO at Eaton, made during the course of that event. These will be brief, but I think, again, they're very poignant to the value of what is manufacturing, why we should move forward with it, why we should embrace it, and a possible application to demonstrate the value of smart manufacturing. In between each vignette, I'll just hit another slide or two just to kind of summarize and tie back to the comments that Mike has. Let's go forward with the first vignette.
What is smart manufacturing? And you know what? You've all heard a lot of different words that are out there. You've heard Industry 4.0, you've heard Internet of Things, smart manufacturing. I'm going to give you actually a very simple way to think about smart manufacturing or these terms. It's really the application of digital technologies to the manufacturing lean and continuous improvement disciplines. So just think about that. Just everything that you're doing today, using lean, using continuous improvement, how can you apply digital technologies to help advance in those improvements, in those efficiencies? And if we do that effectively, what we're going to find is that we're extending our scope, not just internal to the four walls of our company, but we're going past that and we're looking at how can I interact with our customers? How can I improve the relationships with my customers? And on the other side, how can I build a connectivity into my suppliers and in my supply base? So this is really, the way that I think is going to be the most effective for us to think about it and not get caught up in a lot of the buzzwords and a lot of the jargons that are out there. But just think about, when I do continual improvement, is there technology that I could use to help drive the process at a much faster pace? And there's a number of questions that we can ask ourselves just as we go through this. As an example, you can look and say, okay, where is the most energy being consumed inside of my factory? And if I knew that, would I have the ability to change my operations potentially to increase energy efficiency? Do I know really all of my runtime metrics on my machines? And if I knew that, can I tie that together with when there may be a failure and get ahead of the curve and predict when I might need to do maintenance as opposed to waiting until a failure occurs or just being driven by a simple schedule? Asking the question of what information do I have today that's being manually captured and transposed, where I could be capturing it digitally and then making decisions to affect my operations based on the capture of that information. My customer service portals, do the customers have the ability to come in and see where their orders are, to see where they are in the manufacturing pipeline, to see where they are in the delivery pipeline? This is going to give you intimacy with your customers and allow you to, again, increase efficiency outside of your four walls. Similarly, on the supply chain side, do we know where the raw materials are? Is there a marketplace that allows us to go and evaluate pricing and see what the different options are, and then being able to choose the combination of price, inventory, availability to help drive the efficiency of my manufacturing plant? So these are some of the questions you could ask, but really more importantly, how do you apply digital technology to what you do every day to go and drive efficiency? That's really the key question that we have to ask if we're going to be leaders in this area. What is smart manufacturing? And you know what? what is smart?
Thank you. So when we think about smart manufacturing and recognize that it can have such a big impact on our businesses, and we know that change is constant, but when it comes to smart manufacturing, I would say the rate of change is becoming rampant, and the need for acceleration is critical. Why? Because we're a manufacturing community. 7,700 different manufacturing companies in the 18 counties of Northeast Ohio. 95% of those companies are small and medium size. A $210 billion manufacturing output, nearly 275,000 jobs. Fortunately, in addition to a very strong cadre of small and medium-sized businesses, we also have some flagship companies here that lead the charge in manufacturing. But we also have capabilities, research strengths in artificial intelligence, sensors, polymers, advanced materials, blockchain, et cetera, all helping us be a leading community should we choose in smart manufacturing. So we've seen the interest and we want to see it continue. With that, let's go back to Mike Rogalski, who share a little bit of why. Why is it so important?
And it really comes around, where do we obtain that next wave of productivity, and being able to go into the next stage of manufacturing, of evolution or of disruption. And this transformation is going to be driven by digital technologies. And this presents the biggest opportunity for us as manufacturers to broaden our horizon and achieve sustainable growth for the future. Now, a couple of things that we look at and say, well, I've heard about digital, I've heard about Industry 4.0, I've heard about smart manufacturing. All of these words are kind of used interchangeably. But I think there's a few things that we need to take into account when we start looking at this digital transformation. And it's really some of these comments that are on the lower right-hand corner. Is manufacturing is now a global exercise. People are competing globally with products that they produce. And as a country, let alone region, we really have to be at the forefront of that if we're going to be competitive. And we can't be in a position when we're lagging, when other countries, other regions, other businesses are going and utilizing technology and transforming themselves. We will not be able to compete unless we keep pace and actually out-innovate with the adoption of these technologies. And I think the other comment out there, when you look at what's being viewed as standout companies embracing this new technology, the US accounts for only 7% of what would be considered world leaders. So this is both an opportunity for us and a way for us to look at how do we transform our organizations, but it also should give us, allow us to kind of take a step back and think about what could happen if we don't apply the technologies, because we could find ourselves in a very uncompetitive position, and over time, that's going to end up putting us out of business.
So what's in it for us? That's usually the question that follows the why, right? And as part of the road mapping exercise, the research team at Team Neo and validated by the variety of manufacturers was that this was a very sizable opportunity to advance our output as companies and as a region. That these efficiencies and improvements will contribute to business growth and to business output. So there's an estimate that was comprised in late 2018 that said, should we have a reasonable level of adoption of just industrial IoT. As we all know, there's multiple applications of smart manufacturing, but the IIoT application, there's the opportunity for the region by 2025 to increase economic output anywhere from $4 billion to $14 billion. Very significant opportunity. And again, based on the pace of adoption and incorporation, integration, this is a prize that's worth going for. I'll go to the next slide and show just why I think that Northeast Ohio can be a tremendous starting point. Why? If you look at Northeast Ohio's 20 major headquartering operations in manufacturing, and you look at their facilities beyond Northeast Ohio, we can start a fire here relative to technology adoption that can spread to their facilities around the world, making them more successful on a global basis, and thus, more jobs here resulting from their success. Likewise, if you go to the next slide, there's a good number of major companies and other mid-sized companies in particular that have headquarters outside of Northeast Ohio, but have establishments here because of the manufacturing significance that we've been delivering for a long time. And if we can begin technology adoption here, first off, we're going to help the facilities here be relatively more successful than their other facilities around the world. But again, we'll begin to spread that capability beyond Northeast Ohio, giving a real halo effect to what is possible, and to begin, looking at Northeast Ohio as a leader in the adoption of smart manufacturing. One more vignette from Mr. Rogalski. We'll keep it short, but this is a little bit about just there's so many different ways to incorporate smart manufacturing into your operation. Here's just one application, and it's somewhat timely given that we're in this COVID environment.
I want to just show kind of a next evolution around that. And it's really what happens when you start asking the question, if I applied digital technology to something like traditional PPE, what could happen? And you start looking around and you see some of the changes that I'm sure many of you had put in place inside of your own manufacturing facilities to bring people back to work safely and to keep them at work safely. It may start with just, hey, doing temperature checks in the beginning of the morning when people come into work, being able to make sure that there were barriers and physical distance reminders that were put in place. And then, if there was a COVID diagnosis, how do you go through and keep everybody else safe and just kind of trace through, who they came in contact with and where. And you see that while we were able to do this and get people back to work, it's very manual, very labor intensive. So if we applied digital technology to this, what kind of solution could we come up with? And you see on the right-hand side is essentially a component that went through the same process as developing the traditional PPE, where we engaged end users, looked at their pain points, came up with the use cases, applied additive manufacturing principles and digital design to come up with a product that could be adhered to traditional PPE or can be worn independently, and then looked at applying technology that would be able to sense if two people are wearing this device, are they within a range of safe distance? And if they're not, how long has it been in distance? Let's give a notification to the user wearing this to, hey, they've been exposed, they've been in contact with somebody that has been closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, and I want to alert them so that they can start stepping away. And then if there is a diagnosis or somebody comes down with COVID, How can we go back and just run an automatic trace and say, Mike Rogelski was in contact with these 5 people over the last couple days, and now I'm going to be able to go and notify them so that I don't have any further outbreak inside of my facility. Because if you have outbreaks, that contributes to downtime and lost productivity. So I'm bringing this up really to show what can happen when you just start asking the question of how do I apply digital technologies to go and solve some of the challenges that we face at work every day.
So I hope those comments were helpful, even if you've heard them previously, because I think, again, they directly address what is smart manufacturing, why it's important, what it can do for your business, and just ways to think about it that might, be a little bit outside the box. So thanks to Mike Rogelski for providing those. So as I indicated at the outset, I'd talk a little bit more about the smart manufacturing cluster and some of the tools that the cluster has established to assist manufacturers on their journey. And the first is the actual roadmap. This was a 6-month exercise whereby every 2 weeks, the people from the organizations identified here actively participated in identifying, again, the size of the prize, what we would have to do to be successful, where were we to put our focus, et cetera. And because it was this collaborative effort, I think the product is, best. I mean, it just does a good job, I think, of portraying where the opportunity lies, no matter what size of organization you are or what particular industry that you're in. If you're interested in a executive summary of the roadmap or the full deck, it goes about 75 pages, gets into pretty good detail. Both are available by reaching out to Erica Fitzpatrick, and we'll provide her contact information following this presentation, or you can just go to our website. Both are housed there. So to the next slide, what you see here is how we came through the road mapping exercise. It just kind of sizes this thing up and where we should be, really putting our energy. We looked at it from an IIoT demand side, largely around the facility. What could be done to make operations more effective, more efficient? Likewise, and we're looking to do more of this going forward, is the products that you produce, manufacture. Are there ways to add IIoT or IoT capability to that product to make them smart? And how does that help you create more value for your customers and for your company? And then lastly, we all know so much of this hinges on talent. And the cluster is committed to working with organizations and academia and other types of workforce development constituencies to drive the kind of skills and training that's necessary for the demand side and on the supply side. So as we kind of came to the conclusion of pulling the roadmap together, it's like, okay, how do we keep this thing moving? And it was identified that initiating a smart manufacturing cluster to bring academia, the manufacturer, solution providers, and investors, incubators all together would make a lot of sense. And so Team Neo has assumed the role of being the facilitator, the convener, as outlined earlier. And let me show you what our vision and mission is for the cluster. Pretty straightforward. Hopefully I've communicated elements of this already, but it's all about, for us, accelerating the growth and competitiveness of the economy through IoT implementation and innovation. so that we take the great manufacturing competency that exists here in this region and ensure that it grows and continues to be competitive on a global scale. The mission specifically for the cluster is to connect IoT knowledge, experience, tools, and network with manufacturers, all about creating demand, increasing productivity, more innovation, and developing the talent resources necessary to make it all happen. So that's what we're about. The cluster was launched at the outset of 2019. 2020 obviously had its own unique challenges. And just like you, the clusters had to work through some of that. Live events and things like that have, come to a halt. But there are a good number of things that we've been doing and tools that we've been creating. Let me share some of those now. First, we've got a website, and it's simply smartmanufacturingcluster.org. And there's a variety of tools that are embedded into the website. And I will tell you that we're going to be making a major investment in the website this coming summer, and hope to have a lot more nutrition for interested manufacturers embedded in the website. The first thing, and this was done with manufacturers, and that was to create a readiness assessment. A readiness assessment, a short online survey that is confidential at no cost, would help you understand as an organization where you were best positioned, or where you are currently positioned, I should say, on your smart manufacturing journey. And through that, may be able to help you understand what might be the next thing that you might look to incorporate or take on, or what area of the journey that you probably need to address most urgently. If you have previously taken this readiness assessment, I would encourage you to take it again and compare those results. And we're very willing to help you compare if you need to put your hands on the previous results. But it would be interesting for you to see what kind of progress you might have made on your journey thus far, over the last year or two. We're looking to aggregate this information in an anonymous way, such that we can begin to slice and dice the information from the standpoint of how are our small manufacturers proceeding in smart manufacturing, how are our large ones proceeding, how about looking at it by industry, by geography. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that we can start to see, are we truly advancing the rate of adoption and integration of these smart manufacturing technologies. So the more manufacturers that are willing to take it, the better. And we hope you will consider it. It's a great tool. The feedback we've gotten on it from manufacturers that have taken it is very, very positive. And again, we're committed as an organization to keep the information confidential. It's between Team Neo and your own operation. But again, in an anonymous way, we roll that information up and don't assign it to any particular companies. Second thing, I want to see how it can work, and I want to know where it has worked. So to that end, with again the help of the clusters, we established a use case database. And the use case database is now comprised of over 100 different use cases. And it's a fairly simple, straightforward approach that we ask you to take. Basically, tell us the size of your company, large or small, based on a certain threshold by revenue. Tell us what industry you're in, and tell us what particular application you're most interested in. So can it be predictive maintenance, operational excellence, safety and health, or whatever. Upon those three inputs, we're able to give you a number of different use cases for you to look at. And these might not, be perfect matches for what you were thinking about, but there should again be enough there to be helpful to you to think about how you might apply that use case to your business. So one thing we've done is created a very straightforward template that here is an example that Hitachi presented around OEE. And, we give you a top page, initial page that kind of, summarizes the situation and talks about a bit of the opportunity. To the second page, we then, again, provide some context and somewhat of the challenge, the solution that's been identified, and what some of the results are. And then the last page is, okay, what did it take? What was involved from the standpoint of effort? What new resources were required? And then what is required from a long-term care and feeding standpoint? So these use cases are free, available. All you have to do is, again, provide those three inputs after visiting the website. And hopefully you'll get 2 or 3 different use cases that you could find valuable and applicable to your business. We also provide webinars when we were faced with the pandemic early summer of last year and not able to have live events. We put together a 5-part webinar series that talked about each of the steps along the journey that we thought would be valuable to break down, to better understand. And most importantly, in just about everything we do, we incorporate a manufacturer's perspective to that effort. So in this particular webinar series, we had a different solution provider and manufacturer for the prepare segment. We had a different manufacturer and solution provider for the connect segment, but all again, organizations and solution providers that had real life experience around that segment of the journey. These webinars have been recorded and are today available on the website. We do events, after facing the challenge of not being able to get together in person. We employed a conference, cluster conference in November. This is the one to Mike Rogalski was a keynote speaker, and some of the vignettes you saw earlier. And so this is just an example of the agenda. What we pride ourselves in is, again, listening to manufacturers to understand what subjects are most important to you. What would you like to hear about? What would you like to see? Who would you like to hear from? But we, really benefit when manufacturers are engaged in, designing the content, and we help provide the platform to deliver it. Good number of companies have been active participants in the Smart Manufacturing Cluster. Here's just a few. This is just representative. It's not fully inclusive. And hope that you will consider letting us be in contact with you on a fairly regular basis to keep you apprised of all the various programs and content and opportunities and networks that we're hoping to, or that we are, committed to continue to deliver and provide. For our efforts in 2019, as we rolled out the cluster and the roadmap, an organization by the name of the International Economic Development Council, comprised of over 1,400 economic development organizations worldwide, presented the Smart Manufacturing Cluster the 2019 Gold Award, the highest award possible. There's only one single award under the most innovative program that they saw across the economic development community globally. So we're really proud of that, but we're not resting on that. And for us, it's all about you, the manufacturer, and how can we be helpful? So, I hope that as we get into the Q&A and beyond today, you'll continue to challenge us and provide us your thoughts on how we can be of assistance in accelerating the adoption and integration of smart technologies. So that's it of my formal comments. And here is Erica's contact information. Erica's doing a fabulous job as program manager of our cluster. So if you'd like to be added to the newsletter and to some of the other event notifications, etc., Erica's the right person. She makes it happen. And there again is our website address, smartmanufacturingcluster.org. So with that, why don't we open it up to Q&A?
Great, thank you, Jay.
Yes.
So there are some questions in the chat box. First being, will you send out copies of the slides after the webinar? Are you able to do that?
Yes, I believe so. I don't see why not.
Okay, so if you want to just let us know if there's something that you want omitted or anything like that, we can create a PDF and send this out post-event to the people that are on the call.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that was in the presentation that's not on our website.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
So it should work.
And then we have another one here. It's two questions. First, what are the first roadblocks that manufacturers are encountering as they look to deploy smart manufacturing? If you could speak to that.
That one I have a lot of experience with. And that's only because of so many meetings with manufacturers, and it's where to start, right? Or maybe the parallel one would be, well, I've done ERP, that wasn't very much fun. Why is this going to be any better? So I would say on the where to start part, we're willing to help. And I can tell you there's a solution provider community out there that's willing to help. And I know that it's like, okay, wait, solution provider, they are committed that, if they can help companies identify where to start, that's a major victory for a company, because you want to be able to see that you're getting the ROI, and that, that's really adding value to your organization's operations and leading to, and can lead to more success. And then on the comparison sometimes to the ERP experience, the great news about smart manufacturing is you can really start small. You can add a sensor to a machine, a couple sensors to a couple machines, and you can continually reinvest from there and continue to scale across your organization, try a different application, et cetera. So it's not all or nothing proposition, which I think is great.
Great. And I see here another question. What roadmap do you recommend to manufacturers, specifically the initial baby steps, if you see that people are not moving forward because they are trying to eat the whole elephant all at once?
If I understand the question correctly, is it better to go in baby steps or better to try to do the whole thing? And I would definitely say it's better to go in baby steps.
Yeah, I think, well, the roadmap, I'm assuming the readiness assessment would probably be the first piece, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay, great. Yes, I would urge every company to do the readiness assessment. Truthfully, if you didn't send back the results, which we sure hope you will, you're still going to be provided a lot of the things you need to think about, cultural change, leadership required, the importance of budgeting against technology adoption. And a variety of other things. So for smart manufacturing, that is in as such, it's a great place to start.
Great. And then there's a question out here, Jay, are you engaged with Nottingham Spurk and their world-class product innovation facility?
Yes, very much so. We've been at the table with Nottingham Spurk and EY once their concept was born between the two of them, and Team Neo, as identified by those other strategic priorities and being the Jobs Ohio network partner, was able to work with Nottingham Spurk and EY in putting together some assistance to get that operation to come to be. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting thing. And notable thing that really excites us at Team Neo is that major corporations, companies from around the world are going to be coming to Cleveland because of what EY and Nottingham Spurk provide through that opportunity, through their innovation hub. And as such, in our arrangement with Nottingham Spurk and EY, Team Neo and Jobs for Ohio are going to have an opportunity to talk to some of those companies as to would they think about establishing some investment here. And also, I think back to the halo effect, I think in Nottingham Spurk and the EY Innovation Hub are going to spread the recognition for Northeast Ohio around smart manufacturing beyond the region.
Great. Another question, how many manufacturers has the cluster helped transition to smart manufacturing, and what has been the result?
How many? Well, I don't know that we can take credit for, the manufacturers as they transition into smart manufacturing. I'm hoping that we're providing an assist. It's their leadership and priority that makes this all happen. So I think we've contributed to a good number. I don't have an absolute number. And the second part of that question was?
What has been the result?
So I would say that, we're still at the earliest stage. We've got a lot of companies that are piloting. Now, I would tell you that a lot of the larger companies are well down the path, but I think the opportunity is for the small and medium-sized companies to begin to pilot in a variety of different applications for IoT. But we're happy, but not satisfied. And we really think the pace of adoption is accelerating in Asia and Europe at a pace greater than Ohio and Northeast Ohio. But with that all said, Northeast Ohio is getting recognition. I shared one perspective there, but we've been getting a lot of inquiries from around the country, from companies and from economic development organizations, state agencies, et cetera. Like, what's going on in Northeast Ohio? That's terrific. What can we learn from you guys? And to me, that's, validation.
Terrific. Another question, how do service or solution providers participate in the smart manufacturing cluster?
Oh, they're very important. They're core. So, we have a group that gets together that provides, first of all, a sense of what's going on outside of Northeast Ohio, so that we know whether or not, we're keeping pace, or we can incorporate something that's happening somewhere else here in Northeast Ohio. So they're providing a great lens of what's happening and how fast it's happening, et cetera. Additionally, they're major providers of content. They've done a lot of the legwork to understand how these companies can benefit. And additionally, they provide use cases, and they are willing in some cases to offer their time to assist a manufacturer go through the exercise of trying to understand where to start. So they're great. And the more the merrier. But it's a group effort, and the intention is to raise the tide to float all boats here in Northeast Ohio. There's 7,700 opportunities ahead.
Great. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, and there's just a statement here. It says, agree with your characterization of being able to start small, but the roadmap sends a message of needing to do a lot of infrastructure and connectivity work before starting.
I think there's ways around that. I don't know that that was intentional, if that was the way it was perceived. There are things that you need to do. When I think infrastructure, I'm thinking of it from a cultural standpoint, from a commitment to digital transformation, training, things like that. I know there's other more physical infrastructure elements that have to be considered. But I think, again, with pilots and starting small, you don't have to necessarily take too big of a bite of the apple, the financial apple.
Right. And then there's another statement here. It just says, Ernest, if you find a solution that requires a lot of infrastructure and connectivity work before starting, I'd recommend you compare it to other solutions. 80% of manufacturers are small to medium size. What programs are available for these manufacturers to pilot IIoT?
Well, good news there. We're teaming up with Magnet Manufacturing Works and a couple of other organizations. You're going to all be hearing more about this in the coming year. But we're looking to stand up a good number of lighthouses. Lighthouses being pilots that provide, a unique application of a smart manufacturing technology. And, there is some subsidy that is provided to make that happen. And it's, a one-off kind of discussion. But the thought is to build greater awareness amongst manufacturers of what's possible, and seeing is like touching and connecting with manufacturers that are piloting technology is the major aim. And so folks will be hearing more about that as 2021 unfurls. And I think it's a great opportunity for us again to bring content and real life application that will hopefully diminish the risk that's perceived around smart manufacturing, help people understand how they can apply it to their specific business, and hopefully, initiate more adoption.
Great. Now, it looks like that's all the questions that are in the chat box right now. Are there any other questions that we can address for you?
I want to thank everyone for their time and their interest. Eric and I are available, anytime to answer questions, and we hope you'll take a look at the website. If you're looking for a piece of information, whatever, we're very willing to try to get it to you. And if you're looking for connections, we have, through this experience, developed a good number of networks and connections that I think are valuable to manufacturers, and we're willing to offer all of this as just something we do for the betterment of the region.
Great. Well, there is one question here. It says connections. Do you have a directory of Northeast Ohio manufacturers that have already benefited from IIoT?
We have a, we don't publish a directory. Companies sometimes don't necessarily want their competition to know what they're doing. And as such, we do have some that are willing, and that's how, the use cases and the podcasts and the webinars, et cetera, are where, often they'll come forward and identify that, what they've done and how they've done it. And again, the Lighthouse is another attempt to do the same thing. So, but there's no list on the website of who's done what.
Okay. Great. So I think that is all the questions that we have for today. So I want to thank everyone for joining us on the call today, and thanks again to Jay for his excellent presentation. We encourage all of you to share with us your thoughts on topics you'd like to see covered in future calls, and we'll do our best to address those for you. Please stay tuned to your email as we announce our next call. And if there are any other manufacturers in your network that you think would benefit from this information, feel free to share this with them or let us know, and we'd be happy to reach out. As I mentioned earlier, this call has been recorded and archived and will be available on our YouTube channel shortly, as well as a PDF version of the slides provided today that will be sent out post-event. Thanks again, be well and stay healthy, and goodbye, everyone.